Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode, brand new week, a brand new day of the Simon Whistler Show with Sam Myers. Sam, what's going on?
What's going on? I love new things. It's a new day. It's going to be a new month next week.
We are only talking about exciting things, but we've got lots of exciting things coming up. I believe we already had an episode. My memory is, I've been sick, right? I've had a cold. And then my parents came to visit this last weekend. We both live in Prague. This comes up every time, but I feel people will listen to the Aviation show with British people, and they're talking about their parents visiting from abroad.
Lovely.
Because we live abroad, comes up all the time. Don't know if I need to repeat it, but I'm going to. So my parents are in town, and then right now we're sitting in my freezing ass office because it's the end of February, and last Thursday or Wednesday, well, the whole story was I was sitting down, I was recording videos, and I smelled gas.
What?
And I'm like, right.
No.
So, yeah. Well,
and we just done the carbon monoxide episode, and you were
like, so I was like, I swear it smells of gas. So I go in and I turn off my boiler. First step, turn it off, open the windows, and then it's like, okay, maybe I'm crazy because it was just a little whiff, but I'm paranoid because a few years ago I was sitting at home and I'd accidentally. I'd somehow turned the stove on, gas stove, but not lit it, or I'd left it on or it had blown out or something.
Dangerous.
And it was this old stove, right? So my girlfriend, now wife, comes home and she's like, the entire apartment stinks of gas. And I'm just sitting in my little home office and I'm like, I do smell it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
What,
so the whole apartment is filled with gas.
Oh my God.
And so she's like, we should open the windows and go out. So I'm like, we turn off the stove. We open the windows and we go out, and since then I've become really paranoid. This was like a decade.
Don't blame you,
ago.
if I'm honest. Like,
yeah.
Although I have to say, I love gas stoves. It's something that I really miss here. There's no gas stoves here. And
what do you mean? Of course there are.
No,
my last 3 apartments have had gas stoves.
Have they? God, where do you live?
Dude,
I want to live there.
Did you? What do you use? Electric,
but
shitty electric. Or
shitty electric,
not
induction electric. Like the shitty electric one. No, I can't be doing with it.
I don't want to tell like another personal story before we dive into some actually useful content.
This is why the people come to us.
No, dude, the people come to us for facts, and then occasionally our witty riposts. So I bought an apartment 2 years ago. And
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Slightly delayed.
I know it's a bit late.
Yeah. I would have invited you to my housewarming, but I didn't know you back then.
No, true.
Or maybe I'd met you once, but we hadn't become friends yet. I despised you. I mean,
I'm a friend. I think 3 episodes back, I wasn't a friend. You said a work colleague or a work friend. I think you did.
No,
I'm sure the listeners will let us know.
Only in jest. So I move into this, or I'm viewing this apartment, and eventually, actually, I viewed the apartment, and I was like, on Monday, I was like, I'll take it. I saw it on Saturday morning, and then Monday morning I signed the contract because the place was just insanely under market value, and I was in. Anyway, so I tour around, and I'm like, oh wow, it's got an induction stove. So 6 months later, we've gone through the process, we move in, and I'm like, yeah, induction stove, and then I find out it's not an induction stove because I'm like, why isn't this cooking on my pans? And I'm like, it's an induction stove. You got to buy the special induction stove pans. So I go to IKEA and I buy all of these induction stove pans. And then I'm like, why is it still not working? And then I realize it's just shit. Because it's one of these like 1980s style electric, where there's just a glass top, so it looks cool. But then you'd like what you have.
Yeah.
And it's either there's 2 modes. It's not hot, or it's burning the shite out of your food.
Burning your water.
Dude, it will burn. I swear it'll burn like the weird hardness in the water.
Jeez.
Just, I hate it. And
so did you go and buy yourself an induction stove?
Oh, dude, I just got a whole new kitchen.
Nice.
I was at the kitchen. I realized like my laptop has died. No. Oh no, there we go. It's back.
We've got a whole new tick list of things to make sure we have, and charger for laptop was not on there.
Because every week we screw something up, so I wrote a checklist down that we can go through. It makes my life easier. No, so another personal tangent that I promised, dear listeners, we will get on to Japan Airlines mid-air incident, which is interesting. But the worst thing you can do when buying a place is get something that's not quite right. If it's a trashed out piece of crap wreck, then you're like, oh, well, I got to rip this kitchen out and put a new one in. The problem is, our kitchen, it was kind of like, oh, it's got a kind of bad stove. The oven was good. The microwave was good. It was kind of too plasticky and cheap looking. And so I was like, it works. But we ended up having to rip it. We were like, I just want something slightly better.
Honestly, it's just quite satisfying to pull out the crap and put something good in.
Yeah, but I mean, if it was just crap, then I'd feel like, oh, okay, that's fine. I had to do it. But when it's good, it's just like, oh, well, that feels wasteful, doesn't it?
Yeah. If I had known, I would have bought a worse place and then just had the, I demolished a kitchen once and I loved it.
Oh, dude, I love smashing shit up.
So
but now, next place I'm looking at buying, I'm just like,
buying it new.
Whatever. No. I'm just going to buy it as a piece of crap.
Oh.
Because now I've got somewhere nice to live. And then I'll just spend, I won't renovate it, but I'll pay people to renovate it and do it exactly how I want.
Fair enough.
Because I'd like one of these nice old buildings.
Yeah.
And then just have someone just come in and just completely redo the
Someone
place.
with a bit of character.
Dude, exactly. Someone with character, but then inside, like modern.
Yeah.
Let's do some facts. I want to talk about the 2001 Japan Airlines Mid-Air Incident. Oh my God, that's quite a title, isn't it?
Tell me why, Simon. Tell me why you want to talk about this.
Well, first of all, I need to preface this by saying that we've been on a little break. I don't know why.
Yeah, things have come up.
A million things have come up in my life on Mondays and have just screwed up my whole schedule. And so, to be fair...
Maybe we should do Tuesdays.
I don't know. No, because, well, we can soon. I don't know how much you can talk about your new job, but probably not yet, right?
Not yet.
Let's just skip over that I ever said that. We previously talked about a plane crash, right? Do you remember this one? It was like Aeroflot, where there was the pilot and he let his kids up in the cabin to pretend they were flying the plane, and they accidentally knocked off the autopilot.
And no one noticed.
And no one noticed, and they couldn't work out what was wrong. It was slightly more complicated than that, but they couldn't work out what was wrong, and just flipping the autopilot back on would have saved the day, but the plane crashed into the mountains and killed like 100-something people.
I know this sounds terrible. That should have been like a really easy fix.
Yeah, this is why I say, because I say it now, and I'm like, I'm sure they tried turning the autopilot back on, right? I know, I don't want to, like is Aeroflot...
Belittle them.
Is Aeroflot even still around?
I don't know.
I think they are.
I've never been to Japan, so I honestly
It's Russian,
don't know.
dude.
Is it Russian?
Russian.
There you go.
Aeroflot. Aeroflot. That just makes it
like
Italian. Doesn't it? Yeah, I don't know why I said
Aeroflot.
it like that. I feel a Russian accent is one of the few I can halfway do Russian accent because I've seen many James Bond films.
Well, that's very good.
Yeah,
I like that accent.
Yes, get some vodka.
It always reminds me of Gru from Despicable Me.
It's January 2001.
Right.
And this is actually a good story because they don't crash, but it is wild. Flight 907 is rolling along. Happy days. Everything's going fine. It's a big Boeing 747. You have 427 people on board that plane.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
I knew those 747s are big planes, but that's that's a lot of people. Anyway, there's another flight, 958. I don't know if they say it like 958. Probably 958, right?
Yeah, I would imagine
Aero
so.
terms. Flight 958 is also flying above Japan. It's a DC 1040. I have no idea what that is, but it's smaller. But there are still 250 people on board. And both of these planes, they're kind of coming out of Japan or coming out of Japan. They're both climbing to their cruising altitude. Airspace is being handled by, obviously, ATC, Air Traffic Control, and is a 26-year-old dude and his supervisor, so he's a bit new. And basically, at some point, he realizes, these planes are ascending on exactly the same path to exactly the same altitude, and they're going to have a bit of a whoopsie-daisy in the air. And he says, the two planes are going to crash. Tell 907, which is the Boeing 747, to descend. And so they do that. Now, both of these planes, and I didn't know they had this, they have something called collision avoidance, which automatically tracks where the other planes are, and then it'll do that cool voice, like, descend, descend, descend. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You see it in movies and stuff where it's like, pull up, pull up.
Oh, is that a real thing? Yeah.
Dude, totally a real thing.
Okay, all right, good.
And, so this starts basically telling them to start climbing, because they, for some reason, the ATC screwed up, and they're saying descend, but this traffic avoidance thing is saying ascend. And the problem is the plane gets the same warning as well, and the other plane gets the same warning as well, so they also decide. So imagine you've got these two planes coming in, And then one of them's the ATC's telling them to go up, but then their descent thing tells them. I'm fucking confused already.
No, so the all right, hang on.
No, it's
two
simple.
planes.
Dude, just let me simplify it. There's two planes coming in, and basically they know they're going to collide.
They're both
and
told to go down.
Both of their automatic collision things tell them to go down. The problem is then they're both down.
They're still going down.
Yeah. And so ATC is supposed to be able to deal with this sort of problem. And so then the ATC tells the second plane, N958, to turn right, but that message is not received. And then the ATC supervisors tells the 957 to climb to solve the problem. So it's like, all right, just one of you's got to get out of the way. This doesn't seem like so much of a problem. And here's where the screw up happens. 957 doesn't exist. The planes we're talking about, 958 and 907. So he just screws that up. And basically, they end up seeing each other. So it's like the pilot's looking out the window. It's like, oh shit. And the 747 descends rapidly and just avoids hitting it. Bring up that video. Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, right?
That's petrifying.
It's almost touching it.
That is scary. I don't like that.
You know what the distance in between those two planes is? 135 meters.
Yeah.
They are big planes.
Do you know, I once had a similar situation in the air, not quite as dramatic as this, but I remember seeing an aeroplane which looked really, really close fly under our wing. Yeah. And like realistically, it probably was 200 meters away, but it was close enough to go, oh, that's too close.
Yeah.
Get away.
They fly, if you look out the window enough, like you see planes go by and they could be really close.
Well, I was going to say, I actually reckon this probably happens more than you think. I like this sort of planes coming close, like approaching the same altitude at the same time on the same track. I reckon that happens more often than not.
I don't think they do. You know why?
Why is that? Because
I think in the aviation field, there's a great book called Black Box Thinking. And in the aviation field, they have like these really intense reporting standards. So I read the book a couple of years ago, so I'm probably going to screw up exactly what happens. But when someone makes an error, like if there's a pilot in the air and he makes an error, he can say, if he reports it within like 48 hours or something, then he gets, he's not going to pay, he's not going to be punished for it. Mm-hmm. So he comes forward and he says, this happened in the air. I screwed it up. I'm sorry. Here's what needs to be fixed. Here's why it's happened. Here's why it's happened. And then this encourages the whole aviation industry to fix the problems, which is why aviation safety has come along such a long way.
Okay.
And the Matthew Syed guy, the guy who wrote the book, is saying this should also be applied to other fields. Like he says, the medical field, especially in the past, has been terrible for this. If something goes wrong, it's always like, don't speak about it. Don't sue your doctor. Don't do any of this stuff. Just keep it quiet. It'll be fine. And it should improve medical outcomes.
Interesting.
If much more reporting is done in this kind of aviation style. Obviously, it's a bit more complicated and all of that, but it's a great book.
Yeah, lovely. Wow.
Just to kind of sum up on the Japan Airlines thing, no one got injured. A few people got injured. No one died.
Why did they get injured? What, because of
the hard descent?
Yeah.
The plane even got damaged.
What, did people get thrown in the air or something?
I guess they bumped their head on some stuff or weren't wearing. Because I guess there wasn't any reason to be wearing a seatbelt.
No, exactly.
So they should be like, boom.
So I saw a video the other week about some really, really intense turbulence.
Yeah.
And the blooming lady with the trolley with the drinks flew and hit the ceiling. I was like, whoa, Jesus, that's hard.
Basically, in terms of like outcomes, they tried to work out what was wrong, and basically the solution they came up with is that the collision system should always take precedence over air traffic control, because eventually it will figure it out, and air traffic control is human and can screw it up. Mm-hmm. So now if air traffic control is telling you to do something and they're like, you must ascend 1,000 feet or whatever, and the collision avoidance system is like, ascend 2,000 feet, the computer takes priority over ATC.
Really? Interesting.
Okay, we trust our computers. The ATC trainee and supervisor went to prison.
Oh, that's, yeah.
It's pretty harsh.
That is harsh. That's harsh. I mean, that was an error. If they had reported it within 48 hours, they should have been allowed off.
I think this was
by the logic of black box thinking.
I think it was before that. However, if this crash had happened, it would have been the deadliest aviation disaster in history.
Damn.
Beating out the Tenerife airline disaster.
That is terrifying. Have you ever seen the pictures of when like birds hit the cone, like the nose cones of aeroplanes? It completely annihilates them, like
you've
shatters
seen
them.
Sully, right? The movie where
Sully, great movie. Yeah.
Where the birds go in the engines and they all die and he has to land it in the river.
Yes, yeah, but it just there's pictures on the internet of like where birds have hit just the nose cone and it's just completely
just the front of the plane,
crumpled the nose, like just completely crumpled it inwards. It's incredible.
Bring up an image and I'll tell people some stories. So the thing about turbulence is there's some great videos. Like if you just search YouTube for people having turbulence, it's like it is absolutely shaking around like mad. And I think it must be coming up later because I'm pretty sure I linked to some videos so we can talk about it. But the interesting thing is turbulence has never brought down an aircraft.
I believe it. Do you know?
But I mean, people always, and I'll fly and I'll get nervous in the air when it starts shaking about. Just know that that's never brought down a plane.
There you go. Look at that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is absolutely caved in.
It's completely properly caved in. Like
that's just from a bird.
That's a bird. Birds hit it. Yeah. And the thing about turbulence, actually, it's quite interesting. If you know like the sort of science of flying, so basically when you have wings, all that makes lift is that the air particle that goes over the top of the wing goes faster than the one under the wing, and so basically you get like a build-up of air underneath, and that creates lift.
Yeah.
And all turbulence actually is what they call burbling air, where it just like it's falling around in sort of like a non-symmetrical pattern, and you just hit it, and so you lose that lift all in one moment, and you just go whoop, and drop.
I agree, but still that. I feel like, I mean, the shaking around, you'd be like, aren't the wings going to get shaken off? Like, I mean, no, but it's still scary.
Sorry if anyone's listening getting onto a flight.
Oh, no, I think other than the terrible crash that almost happened at the Tenerife airline disaster where 583 people died.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Do you know, I saw I was on a plane the other week, and they had Sully was on the airline system, like really? Entertainment system. I was like, come on.
I do wonder about stuff like that.
Class.
Because, so we do. We've covered like air crashes and stuff on one of my channels, and we also have like a selection of the stuff goes out on Emirates Airlines.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm like, can we include stuff about like terrible plane crashes? Because I don't think the guys at the company that we send it to, who are the in between us and Emirates, are kind of incompetent.
Well,
so
they don't watch it.
I don't know if they're really watching it, and like I guess they handle it all for Emirates. We never really get anything bounced back, so I'm like, I want to just going to talk about airline.
Hope no one stumbles across this on their flight. Yeah.
The thing I wanted to mention that I didn't mention earlier is, and speaking of Sully, there's a great channel called the guy who, it's called 74 Crew, I think, and it's a guy who's a pilot of a 747 aircraft, and he talks a whole bunch of stuff, but my favorite things are where he reviews movies. So he looks at crash scenes in movies, like that one. He's got this great one on there, Denzel Washington, where he flies the plane upside down.
Yep.
It's Crash. It's not called Crash.
It's the one where he's a drunk, isn't it? He's I cannot remember at all. No, I can't remember.
But he's got this great one about that, and it's well worth checking out.
Oh, good.
You want to talk about something else?
Yeah.
A little bit of a change of pace. Yeah. I mean, we're still in Asia.
Oh, all right.
But we're in the bad part of Asia.
Oh, God.
The DPRK.
Oh, the DPRK. Right, North in the Korea. DPRK.
Well, I mean, we're not, and I probably never can be. I met a guy.
That's true. You've said quite a lot, haven't you? I'm not sure they'd let you in.
No. Did we talk about this before? I don't think I can go to North Korea.
I don't know if we've spoken about it, but I completely agree with you.
I've talked so much shit about North Korea.
You have.
And Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-il, and just how that country's absolutely screwed, and a horrible place to live, and their leaders are horrible despots who deserve to be assassinated. Oh. And just if we weren't certain about whether or not I can go to North Korea or not,
we've just 100% confirmed it.
In a previous episode, I made mention, ill-informedly, about Kim Jong-un eating some giant rabbits.
Yeah.
I think I said like it was some diplomatic gift, like some random country had sent him some giant rabbit as this gift, to use as a pet, and he ate it. I got so many things wrong about this. Not quite. If you open up the article there, I think it's smh.com.au. First of all, it was not Kim Jong-un, it was his dad, who was less fat.
Kim Jong-il.
Kim Jong-il, yeah. So it makes it less funny because there's something funny about, old fatty leader eating the giant rabbit rather than his, still
moderately plump.
Still plump in a country of starving people. Anyways, Dad. And second to all of this, even more disappointingly, none of this probably even happened, Sam.
No,
I'm sorry
don't
to have
tell me
misled
that.
you. Yeah, it's disappointing.
It's the biggest disappointment of my week.
So essentially, there was some rabbit breeder, and he had these 12 rabbits, and he sent them to North Korea. So it wasn't just one giant rabbit. And the idea was that it was going to help with some food shortages. It's North Korea.
Okay, all right.
So this guy's like, I'm going to send these giant rabbits to North Korea. We'll get them breeding, and we'll feed all of the starving North Korean people. Fantastic. However, at the last moment, North Korea's like, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And so it turns out this guy, he was not a scientist or anything. He was just this farmer, this German farmer of these giant rabbits. And he was like, every news thing I read about this was just like, and then the guy said that, yeah, they ate them.
Oh.
That was it. It was kind of like, instead of
cultivating them
instead of cultivating them, he just accused them of eating them just because they seem to not want to continue with this program.
Oh.
Which, I mean, even in North Korea, there's going to be like tons of bureaucracy, which means the program can't go forward. Anyways, German guy's like, no, they ate them. Simple as that. And then the embassy, which it doesn't, the way I've written it here is like the embassy said the rabbits were not dead. But in all the articles, it just suddenly seems like the embassy was like, we didn't.
No.
Exactly. Their response is almost like too sudden and just, yeah, it was a bit weird.
Licking
and
their
it all read
lips
a bit weird.
Nope.
Yeah, like they did it. So maybe they did it. Bit weird. But then I got thinking, right? And I was like, why have I never heard of these giant rabbits? If these are the way that we're going to solve like world hunger, why aren't we all talking about eating giant rabbits, right? You want to know why?
Yeah, tell me.
Well,
I'm curious.
So it turns out the German guy might have just been a little bit mad because the problem with these rabbits is they have to eat like a high protein food. And the problem is like eating high protein food. It's just like, well, why don't we just eat it ourselves?
Yeah.
Like if we have to feed the rabbits high protein food and then we eat the rabbits, we're just
massively
wasting
expensive.
Right. It's like the whole thing about eating dogs. Did we talk about? I think we talked about this.
What
before.
about? Yeah, we talked about the food chain, where we are on the food chain.
Yeah, and I still disagree with you on that because
you
you're like, we're
me
not on
all
the
you
top
like.
of the food chain, and I'm like, look, man, how many lions have you eaten? How many lions have eaten? Well, lions are a bad example. How many snakes have eaten me? 0. How many snakes have I eaten?
0.
No, I've eaten. I ate
Have you
a
eaten
water
snake?
snake.
Did you?
Yeah,
Tasty?
in Vietnam.
Like chicken?
Yes, it kind of was like chicken. It's just in this weird soup.
Oh god! Did you have to like eat off the bones?
It has the weird like central like spine bone thing.
Yeah,
but it was weird.
Was it served on the bone?
Yeah.
Oh god, that's crazy. Was it like a snake or was it like bits?
No. It was like sliced up.
Sliced up bits of snake.
Yeah.
God, crazy.
It was weird. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to try eating dog, which is going to be enormously unpopular.
Oh yeah, I think you've just closed us down though.
Well, look, man.
I'm like, yeah.
I don't understand. Like, okay, yeah.
No, there's no winning that. Why? Okay, I'm more curious about why.
What it tastes
like why?
I want to know what it tastes
you
like.
want to know what the flavour is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, and I'll eat all the other animals.
It's like there's.
I'll eat.
I wouldn't
the good
eat
example
dolphin.
is I've eaten goat.
Yeah, goat's delicious.
Yeah, but I think you go to a petting zoo. Those goats are as friendly as dogs.
Oh, they are, but then
And they're smart and they know what's up.
you know, when I worked,
like a dog.
I worked for a little bit on a ranch, and we had to be.
Oh my God, you've done everything.
We had to be so careful. Yeah, I did 2 months on a ranch, and we had to be so careful because when we were feeding the goats, we'd sort of take the padlock off the gate, and then we'd open the gate, walk back in. Walk into the pen, close the gate, and then we'd put the padlock on and like hook it on. And you had to actually lock it, because if you didn't relock it, the goat would go in with his tongue. He'd push the lock away, like turn it round, and then flip the padlock out of the hook,
Dude.
And then he'd open the gate. You'd be like,
If you're happy to
"You're a clever goat." Zeus was his name.
Dude, if you're happy to eat goats are smart and loyal and all of this stuff. I don't see. I think they're very similar to dogs.
For a later episode, I have a great story about a goat.
What's wrong with now?
I haven't got it with me.
Oh, you need notes, Sam.
Notes.
Okay, no problem. We'll do that in a later episode. But the reason we don't eat dogs mostly is not because of like ethical things. It's just inefficient because the grass is eaten by the cow, then the cow is eaten by the dog. There's just the extra step of loss of energy, which makes dogs super expensive.
Yeah, agreed. I also think Asia just isn't quite there with the extermination process of like with the killing process and everything like that.
But it's also just a super Western thing.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
I don't know. I think Asia, no offense, Asia is in a completely like sort of different field in terms of animal rights.
Africa's similar. My dad grew up in Zimbabwe, and he's even to this day he's like, dogs are outside. Like, why would you have a dog in the house? That's crazy.
Really? Yeah.
Like, what's wrong? Like, really what's wrong with this country having dogs inside? And he's lived in the UK since he was like 20 something. Yeah, but I mean,
they're just so pretty.
That's a Western thing.
Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah.
And in other countries, they'll eat them, or they'll have them as, work animals, or just outside, or wild. Okay. The whole point is I still think this whole story is it's a crazy German farmer who just seemed to be like, let's send these giant rabbits, and there was no point whatsoever sending them to North Korea.
Oh, yeah. They were going to eat them in the end anyway.
So this will be our most disliked clip, or disliked podcast in total, because I said I wouldn't mind eating a dog. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go seek out eating dog. But I'm not saying I don't think it's an ethical failing to want to eat dog over any other intelligent animal.
I understand your logic behind it. Like I understand what you mean. I just think humans have a completely different connection with dogs.
They do. It's weird.
And it's really weird.
Dogs are nice.
I got a cat, and I never thought I'd love a thing so much. And now, like, I kind of can't imagine what it must be to have a kid. Because I've got this cat which I really love, and I'm like, I love you.
Intense. But I mean, if I was really hungry, I'd have to eat my kid.
His name is Luis Corazon. And when Luis Corazon is meowing, I don't know what to do. It's like, what to do? Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, dude, don't. No, it's not the same as having a kid. If you haven't listened to previous episodes, I recently had a kid. It's a little bit more complicated than the old cat.
The old cat, yeah. It's not even that recent anymore, is it? Go on.
3 months old this week.
3 months, congratulations.
Thank you. You want to talk about something else?
Yeah.
Let's move swiftly on from talking about eating dogs, because
there's no coming back from that.
My internet. Well, no, I mean, I've mentioned in many like Business Plays episodes, like I said, I think I once said, which took a lot of flack, that I would commit a dog genocide before I killed a single person. That did not go down well, because people were like, dogs' lives are more valuable than humans, and I was like, no, they're not. Let's move on.
I do think there's a good chunk. No, all right, no,
moving
going
on.
Moving on.
Moving directly on, Sam. I don't want to drag you down with me. Gerald Ford, president, used to ex-president. He was on the cover of Cosmo. You want to bring that up?
Yes, I do.
Cosmopolitan magazine. For those not down with the lingo. This is a great named website, by the way, where I found this. Legends Revealed. The design of the website.
Back in the 90s.
Yeah. Looks very, very 90s. And I'm getting advertised some jewelry.
Lovely.
Which is great. Anyway, I thought we could start by talking about Ford's, before we get into how he ended up being on the cover of Cosmo, his path to the presidency. Did you watch House of Cards with Kevin Spacey?
I didn't. I tried to get into it.
Pre-scandal.
I couldn't get into it.
Couldn't get into it?
No.
Oh, it's amazing. So he kind of finagles, is that the right word? His way up to the top. He basically, spoiler alert, becomes the president by not being elected, but by kind of manipulating his way up the ranks. Yep. Gerald Ford kind of did the same thing, except he wasn't a dick about it. Like in House of Cards, he definitely, screws people over to get there.
Yeah.
Whereas Gerald Ford was the vice president, became the vice president when the vice president at the time resigned from office, so he replaced him. And then Nixon resigned after Watergate, and Gerald Ford was his vice president, so he became president.
So he sort of just slipped into all the right gaps.
Exactly.
Like,
so he kind of resigned his way up. And he's the only president who's never been elected to the office. Whether vice presidential office or presidential office.
There you go.
Interesting, right? Anyway, I thought that's just a fun note of history. Now, before we get into it, just go back to the doc for a second, because I thought, it's interesting, he's on the cover of Cosmo, and a joke at Trump's expense would be like, he probably wouldn't be on the cover of Cosmo because, he's a strange looking man. But there you go. There he is on the cover of Playboy.
Playboy.
The difference, of course, is Is that Politico.com link to the thing about him being on Playboy? Because that would be better than us just looking at our like doc. Oh yeah, okay.
He's just such an unlikable man, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't like him. Anyway, this is his magazine. So I'm like, well, okay. So I'm like, okay, he's on the front of Playboy, but he's also on the front of his own magazine all the time because it's his magazine, and of course his daughter. He's been on many, many magazine covers. But the big difference between him and Gerald Ford is that Gerald Ford was on there before he wasn't anybody. He was on there as a male model.
Oh!
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh,
nice.
You're the president, or like, you're a notable businessman. It's like, you were a male model. How did he get there? He's smart. He goes to Yale, and he studies law. But then, he's like, I gotta go fight for my country. Pearl Harbor happens. And he's like, screw this legal career. I'm gonna go and serve. He's awesome. He gets a bunch of medals. Turns out a bit of a legendary war hero as well. So that's good. And anyway, his first serial girlfriend around this time is a model. And they go away for some trip together. And it's kind of sponsored by this magazine. And it's like this young, attractive war hero and his model girlfriend going away on this vacation. They make like a magazine piece about it. And boom. There you go. He's on the front of Cosmo magazine.
And is this it here? Is that the picture there?
Scroll down.
Oh, there it is.
There he is.
There it is.
Dude, also magazine covers were different in the past. It looks almost like a painting.
Great. Amazing. I think it is a painting, isn't it?
Oh, it is a painting. You're right.
Yeah, it's a painting.
It's a painting of him and his girlfriend.
I would love to, if ever I become a millionaire, I want to get myself my own bust made. Just for,
Dude, you don't need to be a millionaire to have that done.
What? How much does having a bust make?
I'm going to look into that, and we're going to talk about it on a previous on a previous episode.
on a previous episode.
Time travel.
On a coming episode, yeah.
Getting
a bust made.
A bust made. If it's not too expensive, we'll get you a bust made.
That'd
be great, right?
I would love a bust. My wife would love it.
That'd be so cool. Anyway, I was in a magazine. Did I tell you that?
No, you didn't.
Or it was more my wife. This kitchen remodel, it was featured in a magazine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which was cool. Oh, well, like we did our kitchen.
Was it like a home and leisure magazine?
Like it was Mary Claire Living or whatever it is.
It must be stylish.
What was it? You've never been to my house?
I've never been to your house, mate.
Oh, this kitchen renovation was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they also make it look like...
What, they light up all nicely and everything?
They were in there for a whole day taking photographs when it was done. And like, they really go to, you look in the magazine. I'll bring the magazine. It's great looking, and then you're like, in real life, it's like, yeah, it's good looking.
Yeah,
but in the magazine, you're like, wow, it's amazing.
It's down on the floor, like from funny angles.
Yeah, and they also bring all their own decorations. So they arrive with all these plants and pictures that they hang up and like decorate the place with that you'd not have in real life because they're impractical. It'd be like, yeah, here's a giant cactus, and it's like, but it's in the hallway. It needs to be in the sun, and so like all this stuff. Anyway,
nice.
That was.
Hey, yeah, that's cool. I can't think of. I once did a talent show, and I got into a magazine that way.
Oh,
and we try not to talk about it and buried it into the distant past. But about
what
10
was
years.
Your talent, Sam?
Well, no, because I'm
going to dig in on this.
Yeah, I shouldn't have mentioned. No, so basically, I used to do like theatre stuff. Yeah. And we went on a TV show called what was it called? Don't Stop Believing, which was sort of like a talent show.
Have I heard of that?
No, I doubt it. A talent show for.
Oh no, it's a song, isn't it?
Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling.
That's right.
Yeah, that one. And they did a TV show. It was basically like an Idol kind of show, but for like sort of like choirs and sort of
you were in a choir,
theatre groups and things like that.
Yeah.
And this was right at the time that Glee had come out, so Glee clubs and that were really popular. Yeah, we came third, actually, I think, if I remember correctly, out of 1,500 different groups or something. But
did you win something cool?
No, we didn't win anything. It was more like out of bulk voting from all our friends and family, but than talent.
Don't bring yourself down.
No,
you did amazing.
No,
everyone else has friends and family who love them less than the other people.
But no. So I was in this magazine, and it was me doing some really sort of embarrassing poses, kind of looking happy about myself being in a show choir. Then I I left.
Okay.
That was my last sort of dabble into show choirness. Show choir is not really my thing. I have to be
Show
honest.
choir is what they do on Glee.
That's that sort of Glee thing.
I've never seen Glee, of course.
Yeah,
but,
no.
I mean, it looks pretty bad. I wouldn't enjoy that.
Do you know, I had a bit of a
I despise musicals.
okay, no, I actually love musicals, but I had a problem with Glee, and this is nothing against anyone, but like the point of Glee when it came out.
Earlier this episode, I said that I would eat dogs.
Yep. All right.
You can.
I'm fine. I can say what I want.
You're gonna be fine. Everyone's gonna hate on me. You could be like, yeah, and then I joined the fascist neo-Nazi party, and they'd be like, but Simon wants to eat dogs.
The lesser of two evils. No, so like I thought Glee was good because at the beginning, Glee was about saying the sports person, the sports guy, like the jock, can do musicals and still be happy about that. And it's not like you don't have to be gay to be in a choir or anything like that. It's not about homosexuality. It's not about that.
But you do.
No. But then by like the third season, which I didn't watch, but my brother was a keen fan, he like everyone, boy and girl, had a bisexual, homosexual like relationship or event had happened, and it kind of was frustrating because it was like, it's not, you don't have to be gay to sing, and it was
wait, so they started out with the other message and then they were like, yeah, it turns out that
they realized that only like mostly gay people watch Glee, and so it was like, okay, right, we're gonna kind of swing it around a bit.
I don't think mostly gay people watch Glee. Mostly women. I don't know. I really
I'm not sure
know
who
nothing
watches
about
Glee,
the show.
so
it just looked pretty bad, and it's like something I would hate.
It was that sort of bop, bop kind of music, and I can't deal with that anymore.
I'd heard the music. I mean, because you'd see it like advertised and stuff.
It was everywhere. It exploded, and then the poor dude died of a heroin overdose.
Oh, he did in real life.
Yeah, in real life. Yeah, and but yeah, but then it sort of died down after that. There was no one really spoke about it.
That turned dark.
I did. Yeah.
Should we move on to another topic?
Let's do it.
I want to talk about was Napoleon short, Sam? What do you think? What's your opinion on Napoleon?
I'm going to say at the time, I'm just a punt. I reckon at the time that he was alive, he was of average size.
This is okay. Yeah, I think this is what most people think. Or I mean, this is a bit boring because I think most people know, like, oh yeah, he wasn't really short. It was just some like error in measurements or something like that, right? Pretty famous myths. But generally, I wonder if we say Napoleon complex, right? It's where someone's like short and they're bossy.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you got to do things my way. So, all right, chill out, little man.
Trying to show how big they are.
Yeah. Oh God, there's that video online where that guy's an absolute freak out in some donut store or something.
I don't think I've
See
seen
if you
this.
can bring that up.
All right.
It's
what's the
I don't
name?
know, just short man donut store freak out.
Okay.
I can't even remember if it's a donut. It might have been a bagel store. Short
man donut store.
No, just search short man freak out then.
Freak out.
This is, I mean,
one of these.
Yeah, the bagel shop. Oh, this is so bad. Load this up.
Okay. Oh, we might have it. We got it.
Oh yeah, this is it.
Why is it okay for women to say, "Oh, you're 5 feet on dating sites. You should be dead"? That's okay.
Who said that to you here? Nobody.
Women in general have said it on dating sites. You think I'm making that shit up? Everywhere I go, I get the same fucking smirk with the biting lip.
Anyway, just
he's angry.
Yeah, this is just the beginning. It gets intense.
Oh my God.
And then I think some guy ends up like tackling him or something. It was pretty intense. Anyway,
must be satisfying to watch. I'll have to watch it later.
So this video could be titled Napoleon Complex. Anyway, it turns out like it's not just a modern thing though. Like even during because you'd think the English would make this up later, right? You'd be like, the French, Napoleon, he's short. Ha 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 ha. But it turns out that even in his own time, Napoleon had to deal with this idea that he was short. So like there'd be all these rumors going around, like, and he'd try and release this anti-short propaganda and stuff, being like, I'm not short and all of this stuff. Like pre-internet, people were like, sounds like you're trying too hard, Napoleon. I bet you are short.
Fake news.
He can't just take a photo of himself and say like, look, I'm a normal height. So there's all these paintings and stuff where he's like normal height and all of this, but he was a normal height.
Just a normal height, yeah?
Yeah, in fact, they confirmed on his death certificate he was actually 2 inches taller than the average height. So
wow.
The average height's 5'11", or like 100.
Was he 6'1"?
He was 6'1".
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
No.
He wasn't 6'1", but
when he had the heels and
no. If
the big hat.
he would be the equivalent because height is inflated.
Oh, yeah.
He would be the equivalent of a 6'1" man.
So he was 5'8" or whatever he was.
Yeah. He was 5'8".
There you go.
So like, no, he was actually slightly higher than average for his time. And there's all these sorts of things about the measurement was the French inch, which was slightly smaller, measuring him, but mostly it was just these kind of.
I'm not telling the French inch. It's the only reason I'm small is the French inch.
And people were like, "It sounds like you're trying too hard, Napoleon." And it's like, no, he was legitimately a normal sized man.
Was it Napoleon who got pickled in brandy?
What?
I think it's Napoleon. Napoleon got shot and he died, and they wanted to bring him home, so they pickled him in brandy.
That sounds like
they had a big barrel of brandy and they pickled him.
Really?
Yeah. Napoleon
was Napoleon pickled? It's an internet search for the ages.
Pickled in baby corn, pickled in brandy, or was it? It might have been.
But while you look that up, anyway, they found out conclusively when he died because he had a death certificate which had this information.
There we go. So...
Oh, no.
Nelson.
Oh, yeah, Horatio Nelson.
Yes, sorry. So Britain's most
other guy.
naval hero is struck by a fatal musket ball at the very moment of his greatest strategic triumph. Rather than bury his body at sea, a quick-thinking Irish surgeon preserves it in a cask of brandy lashed to the deck of the ship.
I'd be pretty upset if I was one of those sailors. I'd be like,
that's
so
a
what,
waste.
We can't drink the brandy now? Can we at least drink the displaced brandy?
Just siphon it out.
Yeah.
Where's the rum gone?
I am going to call this a short one. We can be flexible on our times.
We can.
It's cold in here because my boiler's not working. I'm slightly under the weather.
I'm slightly regretting not wearing a coat, actually.
Let's take a break and we'll record our second of double bill recording today. Put a coat on.
We'll wrap ourselves up.
You came in here and you were like, "Oh, it's not too cold. I'm a big man."
I did.
I was like, "Sam, in 10 minutes you'll be cold."
I literally walked in, didn't I? I went, "Oh, it's warm in here,"
Yeah,
because
it's not
you
warm.
warned me. It's not warm.
No, my boiler went out last Thursday. It's still cold.
I think we're very lucky though that the weather's not been too cold. Thank goodness for that.
That's true.
It's like this has been the warmest February. I think I read the other day the warmest February ever. Yeah, since records began.
Was the warmest year on average throughout the year in the Czech Republic. This year, mate. Global warming, man.
Global warming.
What's the problem?
Oh,
I mean, the ice caps are going to melt. So maybe the ocean will become slightly closer. I mean, it's really far to the ocean. It's like 6 hours drive.
The Czechs always say they're a landlocked nation. They always say one day we will have a sea.
Yeah. The land price, the price of property will go way up. I'm going to start buying swaths of land. It's soon going to be beachfront real estate. Sam, thank you for joining me. This, everyone, has been the Simon Whistler Show. If you want to subscribe to this channel, if you're, you could subscribe on YouTube or on a podcast. So do that.
We're everywhere. We're ubiquitous.
We're not on television, Sam.
Not yet.
We're not in the movies. We're not even on the radio waves.
We should shoot our own film.
Why aren't we on Netflix?
Why are we not on Netflix? How are you not on Netflix?
Don't know. Never done anything like for Netflix.
Oh. There you go.
Never done any like proper documentary stuff. Maybe someday. Also, it takes forever, and I've got a busy schedule.
True.
Not that I wouldn't do something for Netflix. I imagine the money's got to be pretty good, right?
I think people fight to death to get onto Netflix. Once you're on Netflix, you never let go. Netflix never lets you go.
They don't let you go?
No, like as like an actor, for example, all the same actors just do like rounds on Netflix originals.
Oh,
yeah. So
okay.
Good.
Well, I wouldn't be an actor on a show. I'd probably make that'd be a bit of a weird transition. Anyway, subscribe to this channel if you're watching on YouTube. Like it. If you're listening on a podcast, leave us a review, leave us a comment, whatever you like. Thank you very much for listening or watching, and we will see you very soon.
Speak to you soon.